on this lovely full moon. We started with a couple of short messages. The seed of enlightenment is within everyone, but its realization is thwarted when self isn't owned. That's a 1 minute short. And then we have our 3 minute short where the last word changes because the self also is about being whole. And they have different pieces of information, so you might want to go tune into that. But if not, it's okay because we're going to get to continue to talk about this inner stillness that we have, since enlightenment is all about the inner stillness of you. But I get to bring to you the human stuff with the spirituality as a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group and beginning my journey with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. As you know, the mystic community is not welcome by all, but it's okay. We understand why non-bilaterally integrated brains don't have the capacity to intellectually, emotionally, and physically be intelligent. So the intelligence is lacking. Those who don't own their sense of self, which we've been talking about. It's also why they have a bunch of narratives, and that's for our next episodes because we're going to have some more channel guidance. So in the meantime, 5D, we believe in ourselves, otherwise you won't be here. You don't have any disowned parts, or you're working with a good therapist to get those disowned parts healed so that you can have clarity in your mind and body and heart and organization, and therefore anchor in what is a ventral, which is why you then are spiritually and or mindfully living, loving, and basically being a healthy adult. So we here do spiritual growth, mastery, personal growth, mastery. I'm the mentor, content creator, podcast host, and we begin with, again, raising your frequency. Easy peasy, unless you're a Zen master who has laundry, and that's because he didn't go to continue working on his bilateral, vertical, and overall integration, and he apparently doesn't know about Lisa Feldman Barrett and how the brain is running a model of its body. He also probably doesn't know about how implicit memory begins to store as infants in the womb. I do. So I learned from smart human beings. Yes, sciences people. I'm the pseudoscience woo-woo lady. But they are doing, and it's been like about a decade or so. So again, you can always ask questions, but your frequency is raised, meaning you get to be anchored in your ventral energy. And as we learned from Deb Dana and Stephen Porges, some people won't want the positive experience person around because they literally will be dysregulated the minute that you go near them because they're comfortable in protection and they haven't headed on over to Patrick Tiahan, a good childhood trauma survivor who's healed and healing and therapist, to go heal their unkindness and what is cowardice as well. And so, monsters don't really exist in the eyes of any human being. What exists are the trauma charges and shit that comes up and that they don't own because they don't own their sense of self. So when Stephen Porges mentions a biologically rude person isn't choosing, they're actively unconscious about their sense of self. And that's why the brain, smart people know all about it, as well neuroscientists. But the ones who don't want to believe it, again, we leave it alone. So raising frequency is about your restorative embodiment as you're anchored in. I know all about it because that's what my body's in. So this is where a non-traumatized person knows how to self-regulate without another human being. I got lucky because my first 3 years of life, you all know this, you make an unbreakable soul, whole self, when you got a 3-year-old who got taught self-respect. Thanks, Mom. And has a twin who she got to have all that fighting stuff, which means ruptures, repairs, heartbreak, but it's not really heartbreak. So I got to get practice into being in the, in the depths of the darkness of the emotional 3-year-old and 4-year-old. In fact, I would sit in corners to contemplate. It was funny because adults gave me the word depression. I wasn't depressed. I don't even remember sitting in these corners, but I did like corners. And then somebody said, look, corners aren't safe. Even though you're small, you want to try and get out. So we're going to keep chit-chatting about our lovely body. She always informs us she's your feminine and mine's empowered, which is why my masculine, my mind is also empowered with bilateral, vertical, and overall integration, which is what makes me a mindfulness, mindset, and mindset practitioner that supports people who want to be their true self, and as well, Akashic Record reader, Reiki Master member, and with our tarot. We're going to have some more. Welcome, full moon. So the grounding yourself when anchored in ventral regulation is awesome, which is why we maximize those which are called clairs, spiritual gifts, psychic gifts, but they're not really gifts. They're your human makeup. A scientist community look into it, and it's called the flow state. So selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. I know all about it. And I also know about my light body, rainbow body expansion, and all that great stuff. And 5D collective mystics don't lose anyone. We also don't have a saga or drama with any of our masculine or maskins because the empowered feminine actively doesn't lose a relationship with God or Holy Spirit or Jesus and or anything. Once you get clairs, it's more like, ha, now I have access to Anima Mundi and basically Google and every person's subconscious. And then there's people who go, oh, evil bitch, evil witch. No, not really, but hey, it's okay. I don't need to be near you because you don't like positive people. It's okay. So we have one group of people saying you have no sense of self. All the ones who like to tell us that it's an illusion. Yes, I know who they are. We got another group that says you do. Well, then we got a couple that are like, yeah, no, excuse me, like Robert Sapolsky. Let me bring on him in. No free will. I like his qualitative analysis though, because I know what he's talking about. The first 3 years of your life. Find it hard to believe. No, don't find it hard to believe, because again, your body is storing implicit memory from the womb. So you are actively, like I am, made of 4 types of memory. And I remember when Sadhguru mentioned it, I'm like, okay, wait, I don't know what memory he's talking about. And then I found out from the scientists, like, okay, now I know what you're talking about. So when you're doing karma, it's not a bad thing. Some of us do dharma, though. Because again, a non-traumatized person, as Pat Ogden mentioned, can self-regulate. What this means is I use my ventral vagal, which is why the Zen master doesn't know how to be Zen. Or master, he doesn't know use stress, which is the healthy, good stress. Nor does the fancy lady in a suit, who in fact wants you to stay in the threat. And anybody who doesn't want to get all gooey inside, I'm serious, that they don't have to. It's why God gives us free will. For those of us who have blind faith, he told me, leave alone the 0-1-year-olds, the human suffering. I know you don't like to see it, you don't like to perceive it, but for the last time, he already told me when I was a teenager with Jesus, forgive and leave it alone. And then by the time I'm 19, they're all cowards, God, but I won't be a coward. Don't worry. I keep telling them the truth in their face. But I think I'm going to get busy with life, which is what happens, okay? So there's no demon in anyone. There's only people who disregard that they have a body like I do, and that they don't have access to that which is a safety with another human being. I have a twin, so in my implicit memory, I'm not alone. I can't actively live a life without having another solo self. And my meaning and connection, it's unbreakable. Unbreakable, because implicit memory works that way. It has no words, and you're just going to keep it. My body just knows how to consistently be in a state of connection with another human being and share the air that I breathe and the water that I drink and the food that I eat. And, sometimes I did get food stolen from me, but that's okay, because she ate more and I just didn't. I don't know why. But anyways, enough about me. Let's continue reading. So the 4 types of trauma: semantic memory, episodic memory, and when they basically, I'm going to leave that one for another episode, but I'm very much learning from all the smart human beings. Dr. Daniel Siegel is who came to my mind in this case, but also NICABM, procedural memory, and emotional memory. So procedural and emotional are implicit, while explicit memory is semantic and episodic. And you can find an infographic at NICABM.com. Just look up the 4 types. Let me go find the title. How trauma can impact 4 types of memory. Please remember that the ones who just use the words and then act like assholes towards each other are basically not going to get themselves whole. And I've met plenty of them. So wholeness is when you do own your sense of self. So I'm going to say with Robert Sapolsky, it just means that IHP is going to be made with all of you who say yes to love. And that those who say no to love, they don't come. That's all. In fact, this is the other part of when I notice people who don't know what it means to not play God. We talked about that yesterday. Yeah, so when I see any of my mystic colleagues, they're all colleagues because everybody's going to go tune in to whoever they want. I'm grounded in reality. I'm not a flat earther, and they're all flat earthers to me. But I also know scientists are wanting to use AI to disprove reality. Therefore, the active data people are completely out of sorts. So, makes me as a mystic not really feel bad. But then again, I have the smart people to thank, like Dr. Daniel Siegel, who informed me that 97% of what is out there isn't available to scientists to know. Therefore, any scientist who says, I know everything, is actually going against what data people would do. So I leave it alone, and I know who the smart ones are and who the bullshitters are. The 7 to 14 charming don't appeal to just anyone. Those people, the masses that follow them, it's because their ears tune into that which their brain, the left, the ego, wants to hear, which is why maskins are unimpressive. They don't care to know the truth of how their embodied brain works. They care to have a story that continues to allow them, not kidding right now, to have these little Cusco gloves. And I continue to grow older, and I'm not at any way, shape, or form interested in these people because they're emotionally unavailable men for me. And so unless it's an empowered, emotionally available human being man, you're off the table, meaning uninteresting. And we are going to talk about that one because love is still on the table. As for the ones that are getting their 12-karat golden ring, that's why I watch from afar as those men who say they're smart and badass allow themselves to get, once again, used by whoever it is that randomly whips them into shape, because that's exactly what their unfortunate child trauma surviving body is looking for. And Patrick Tihan is the best that I love that he's on there, because anybody who wants to be not a coward can go to him, heal, and not even have to forgive their home. I am totally with Patrick on that one because I know a child-centric environment, okay? So I can only imagine how pissed I would be getting to become aware that every single bit of my cowardice, unkindness, pissiness comes from somewhere that I got treated, and then I treated others like that. I wouldn't want to point fingers. I just feel like, you know what? I don't want to talk to anybody, and I'm going to get completely out of this, and I'm going to get better. And then once I'm better, I'm going to now finally be able to talk to those people. I don't know. I'm just hypothetical. But my point is, and people who keep wanting to tell you that there's an illusion of free will and that there's an illusion of self. I get what they're trying to do, the sciences groups. I'm going to use Dr. Daniel Siegel. He is an amazing human being who taught me and continues to teach me about attachment and lifespan, about the brain, mind, and body. And I know everything, even though I need to still continue the course of interpersonal neurobiology. And though I've seen people in action, and I know how it works, okay? So I've seen a bunch of not securely attached human beings completely disregard good information for the mere, they don't like hearing that implicit memory and that their trauma is living through them. So they don't want to say, yeah, I'm a 0-8-year-old. They don't have this desire to use the brain. In fact, they just know how to treat people that have information like this, basically making fun of us, which is okay though, because empowered people don't want to waste our breath on facade people, as I've mentioned to you more than once. So the groups of people who want to make up an excuse for why they're not going to head on over to a therapist like Patrick Tihan, we know who they are. They're going to say, I don't need to own my sense of self. Those scientist people are wrong, and those are the spiritual ego people. Science's ego will just say, oh, that's a pseudoscience lady. She's building shit. Just, yeah, thank you so much. I already know how to stay grounded in reality. It's called anything that comes out of my fucking mouth can be completely bullshit. That's actually part of what is beautiful about an intelligent brain. We already know that because we're not trying to prove points. That's also why, as I said, inner stillness right here. Raising frequency, on a go, grounding yourself with ventral. It's amazing. Just keep your 3-year-old alive. Thanks, mom. Thanks, twin. Thanks, younger sister, too. But she knows she's the baby of me, meaning that I get to baby her, not my baby, not at all. But I definitely treat her like my baby sister. And then everybody else who welcomes me with open arms and my flaws. That's how it works when you're empowered feminine, by the way. You say, yeah, hey, Eric, I got a tail. No, I ain't getting rid of my voice, no matter how much you might try. I will tell you the truth until I realize you're not available to it. Then I will leave it alone and happily say, thank goodness I don't get a text back. Oh, yes. And now I know that I'm so happy that I don't get any text backs from anyone, and their silence is king. So when you have no sense of self-ownership, this is why you have people who are flags in the wind and they lack integrity. They lack complete integrity. They don't even know how to say, yeah, just leave it. Again, my facade friend story, and that's why it's disappointing. But once you realize it's not their fault, like Stephen Porges says, and Jesus says, forgive Maria, and God says the same, it's fine. So I don't have anything to say to cowards who don't go and get Patrick Tihan. I have it to share with you all. There's 2 groups of people. We're going to have them. It's the ones who get smart and the ones who don't. And I really have nothing else to say because, again, the tricks, they're not even tricks. I mean, when I see women who are professionals who will have more degrees than I ever will wield their mouths as they're saying, the data is showing the personality disorders of narcissists are not healable. Yeah, you don't know Dr. Daniel Fox. But you know what hones it in is, and I'm all alone. My colleagues are all against me. Now I got a teenager in the room. Oh, I'm so sorry. Your colleagues are against you. Wow, is that how you do academia? I mean, really, egos, that's one of the reasons I didn't continue it. Like, I want to help people. I don't want to waste time with this stuff because ego wastes my time, you see, because I have people. Luckily for me, YouTube allows me to access all of you. And I know the ears are going to come here. And I didn't want to waste time with egos. Like, I don't like wasting it with masculines who are all egos and distorted feminines. And so, all past self people, basically, with trauma running them like my facade friend. So they only are going to come around when they want that hug or when they want that thing, but they don't want to take in the information. They actually don't care to do personal growth or spiritual growth, which is none of my business. God told me to mind my own business. This is the part. So did my mother. Robert Sapolsky, come on in. I can give you why my 3-year-old knows how to mind her own business and why she continues to be who she is. Because my 4-year-old got rejected at 4 from boys who sent me home crying. My twin got to go ride around, and I was told it's okay. It's because you're serious, and I like to read, so I'm okay with being serious. And then when people say you're selective or picky is what they say. I say, no, it's selective, yeah. And then I say, yeah, I'm intelligent. Meaning I like to have interesting, in-depth conversations, not bullshit stuff, because really, I got 24 hours. Why would I want anything that's not even facades? It's unimportant. You're just distracting yourself. I can have a magical moment. It's not really magical. Like my one friend, remember my friend, the one who, when I said, yeah, I'm a solo poly, he's like, yeah, you're traumatized from twin flames. I said, no. Then he said, so can I fuck you? I said, no. Can I kiss you? No. Are you going to marry anyone? No. And he went around and continued with this until one evening, you're having a great time, and he's dedicating this song to me, which is amazing. This song is beautiful. It's I forgot it right now, but this is an Italian song, and it's in a flirtatious whatever, but we're friends. He knows I'm not into him like that, and I know that he likes to just distract and get into this stuff before he had a girlfriend. Now he's happy, which is good. So long story short, though, we're having this fun time. And as I'm looking at him and he's using the words of the song, I'm like, you do realize this is all bullshit, right? Because I know nothing of you. Like, you know me, but I have no access to the depths of anything of you because of how closed off he is. He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. Because the body don't lie. So even if he's not really understanding what I'm saying, because sometimes, again, those non-bilaterally integrated people, they don't really know. But the body speaks the truth. And it's not an ugly thing. It's not a bad thing. When somebody is afraid to love, I'm okay with them doing their thing. No, their body automatically protects them, and I'm not going to try and make their body. You can't make a nervous system want to engage in ventral vagal. You see what I'm saying? So, FYI, just so you know, which is why past self people, they're running with their 0-8-year-old, and it's okay. And then whatever trauma stuff comes up, which this person, for example, has, they don't want to face it. They want to go get distracted, like my facade friend and a bunch of more people who just go and get distracted. But that's not the case for those of us who instead are, again, the spiritual process and science process. So we are growing from within, mentally, emotionally, physically, because of mindfully living and loving, and spiritually for some. So these people, they're spiritual and science egos, you'll notice them, and they're non-bilaterally integrated brains who are comfortable in protection and modulated embodiment and dysregulation. In fact, they follow that fancy man and woman suit all over the place and exactly what comes out of their mouth without even questioning what the fuck they're talking about with good scientists. They just say, see, the psychologists, they're awful. They're just going to make us all compassionate. They have no idea what that word means for real from within their body. They just decided because they don't like the sound of it and they'd rather act like these dudes and dudettes do and all of it. Seriously, it's about the sound, because I don't like certain words because of their sound. And I know why, because I learned from smart people, and I also don't lie to myself. It's called implicit and explicit bias. And it's also called that I have an interpretation based on my own experience. I know how to say it's not an irrefutable fact, and how to say, hey, Maria, let's try to remember to not use words that we don't understand because we have a different relationship with the sound. So when somebody says, ew, compassion, they could notice, why would I do ew to compassion? I am actually a human being who's meant to be compassionate. This fact that I'm so against it, maybe I should get curious. And maybe I could get curious. Yeah, you're denying the very subject matter experts who are letting you know why you're doing what you're doing. So, like I said, people have, like Robert Sapolsky points out, been determined, but they have options. The dark sides of neuroplasticity is what these people use. It is their go-to when sensations arise. That's because they do rumination like the Zen master. They're literally addicted to that type of fantasy, the reward, and they're used to that. They also use the nightmare imagination with monsters lurking in their minds. That's all their childhood implicit memory as well as their 0 to 8 year old all by themselves, because they are codependent from 0 to 8, the child. So if you leave me alone all day long and I'm having a bad day and shit happens to me, I'm going to have nightmare shit because I'm not getting taught how to process any of emotions in my gooiness. And if I have a person who's absent completely and in their sympathetic or dysregulated, it doesn't matter even if their body is present. I have no capacity as a 0 to 8 year old to learn how to be a healthy, self-regulating in my ventral state person. Okay, so when you get explained how it works, it's pretty clear. And when you see people who don't understand it, they think that there cannot exist non-traumatized people because they haven't even admitted to themselves that is what their nervous system is. And that's because as that avoidant gets on screen, people are fucked up. Just gonna stay this way. Not really, but you can stay that way. You're not going to be affecting us or the laws because, you follow the laws. So, non-bilaterally integrated people, they ruminate and are addicted to their lust fantasy in a biochemistry of fear. They use narratives of ancient textbooks of good and evil, dark fighting light, and all of that. Like every single thing of the things they do is in the neuroplasticity of. Also, drinking, drugging, fucking, don't forget about these. So maladaptive patterns of behavior and completely shoving shit down instead of allowing themselves to have what is a healthy interaction. So healthy means that I get a healthy person that I know, which means they don't cast a stone, no judgment, discerning, which means they can listen to you with open arms and open heart. And when you're opening up, though, it's not just a conversation. You actually want to allow yourself to completely share. And as you're sharing, because you're calibrating with a person who's in their ventral, you're going to get that ventral energy and you're going to be able to welcome. But here's where if you stop yourself from feeling the depths of emotions, now we've only done half of what you could have done. But obviously, this is where circumstances matter. Because if I'm out in public, I don't want to break down and cry like with my 5D mystic empowered masculine friend. Remember, we're out and he is going back to therapy and all that great stuff, but we're having a moment and he's like, okay, you hit home, but we can't keep talking about it because I'm going to get emotional. But he's aware of it in a healthy way. And so he's not trying to shove it down. He's just saying right now, and I get it because I've been in circumstances too. And with that, okay, so black, white, limited, ignorant thinking. They lack intellectual expansion for the future and emotional intelligence. So please do remember their black and white thinking is split thinking. And there's nothing you can do to change that because they have to be the ones who notice it. But ego is so blind and stupid that really, unless they have their self-awareness, accountability, regulation, and health with their herd in mind, so I want to bring the best version of me forth, they're not going to hear in the way of, you know what, okay, yeah, I can totally see that I have a maladaptive pattern of behavior that comes from childhood trauma and or more. I'm going to go get help and or I'm going to just commit to learning how to be in this ventral. Now, I believe in the willpower with the psych education for any human being because I believe in you and the capacity for your brain, mind, and self to understand things when you're choosing to be bilaterally aware of yourself, which says, oh, bottom up. That shit does come up and then create stressors and I distort it and then I hide it from myself and so you can become aware of what you're doing if you're smart enough. Stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. That's my word, my acronym Dr. Daniel Siegel taught me. So if you're smart enough, you're going to say, oh, okay, these are my disowned parts. Okay, or this is what's happening. You're going to notice it, but you're not going to talk about it in a way of, you have to leave me alone and you're going to have your inner conversation. And then again, with the empowered people around you, you're going to have the capacity to say, hey, so guess what? And you know who those people are because you're going to know it 100%. They will welcome and you will feel welcomed. You will have felt that you were able to share, lighten the load, and then continue expanding your consciousness in a healthy way for yourself. So that's what happens when you have the lovely people who are our 5D community who care about healing trauma seriously, which is why we have new stories. Because we don't use there's no evil, Knievel, medieval with Lucifer or any of that. The lower frequency people, they're all people who could use therapy. And any of those mystics that are egoic, yes, they're telling about energy vampires, dark auras, and spells to protect each other versus all going to therapy so they can stop being an in and out group and thinking they're chosen ones, which really is disrespectful to our ancestors, but also just egoic. And spiritual bypassers are bountiful. And so when you see Elsa, say hello. Don't join her unless you want to be a part of the insecurely attached cheerleading squad of people. Show yourself who think that they're superheroes fighting supervillains. And they're not grounded in reality, so they ain't their humanity. Nope, they're a non-bilaterally integrated person who says, we need to prove spirituality, like the scientists prove science stuff. And you're like, wow, you're the one who calls us Luciferian. You're so funny. And there's people that call us that. Who's us? The mystics, Christian Catholic mystics, the other spirituality mystics, the ones of us who just mix it all up, don't care to use the proper anything. Please go away. Go away, anybody who's linear. No, no, no. It's a 3-year-old place. We mix it all up. Shoo, shoo, chow, chow. Go have fun somewhere else with the people who break things down. It's so annoying. They slow everything down. Like, they'll just take 2 words and then you're like, wow, okay, we would have been somewhere else completely had you allowed us to just use words a little bit iffy. It's why of you that the flat earthers exist. No, the flat earthers exist because they're insecure people like any other person who's actually still following idiots who speak lack of imagination for evil from their mouths, or who has the ability to say, it's not true that it's inherently healthy and enlightenment to be non-reactive. It's dangerous to have no emotions. Just saying that is like, you're a stupid lady. You cannot physically have no emotions, so there's no danger involved. And what you just wielded is going against smarter people than you ever will be. And the fact that you think wedding bells after man fucks you tells me, oh, poor Cinderella. And really, Cinderella had it better off. I don't know which one of the movies, the horrible dramatic movies you're from, but that's just like sad. My empowered masculine friends made sure I'd know, hey, you're an object. Don't forget. They will dump you. They just wanted to fuck you. Thank you to those lovely empowered human being men. You're all awesome. And no, the empowered ones are awesome. The ones that I'm being sarcastic about, we just leave those alone too to continue doing, Cusco. Peter Pan, I don't know, Pinocchio on his island, let them have fun, because really, I mean, their black and white limited ignorant thinking is not the future, thank goodness. I love that the future generation already has smart therapists out there working with them. So, again, we notice they have no compassion or empathy. They are instead rigid, harsh, unforgiving, adaptive child parts of themselves. You'll notice when they say, you're making a big deal out of nothing, or they'll just call you names again. Evil bitch, evil witch, Luciferian, stuff like that. Okay, so in the meantime, the seed of enlightenment is within everyone, but its realization is thwarted when self isn't whole. These people have no whole self. They're in fact like the teenagers are met. That's why they're cowards. All they do is follow each other around. Now, I can't say that I'm not a coward, no, but I can say that I learned from what I definitely had been told by the grown-ups, and I said, you know what, I do like this thing called integrity, and I do like what Jesus taught me about loving kindness. And I agree with God, and, even as a child, I'm sure I was a bit scared of the devil thing, because I didn't want to go to hell. As I got older, I'm 19 now, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about the hell thing, but I do know some people telling me it's made up, not made up. Meantime, don't see Lucifer. These monsters that are supposed to exist seem to all be human suffering human beings who had shit go down, like major shit, not even small shit. And now I'm confirmed that their 3-year-old is ruling them with nightmares, so it's really sad. Again, these people lack wholeness and the self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills in the body, mind's state of safety and connection. And that means they don't like ventral, which is why that lady made up all those words. Yeah, so they're all supportive of staying in a body-mind state of protection, which has modulated this regulated embodiment. In fact, she says, we're here to stay in our threat response, reactive. That's what she thinks emotions are. They're trying to imprison us. And that's her poor 3-year-old who's actually still scared to go out into the world. Well, basically, it won't get out anywhere. So in the meantime, spiritual figures like Jesus and Sadhguru have shared with us all what we all can be. Jesus, the kingdom of God is within you. Thank you, Jesus. I read the whole passage and it was fascinating to read. I can say that, wow. But Sadhguru also, thank you, Sadhguru. The seed of enlightenment is there in every being. And as smart mental health scientists like Dr. Daniel Siegel, Bezel van der Kolk, C.M. Porges, and Peter Levine, to name a few, and I'm sure they're not all mental health, but they're in that realm, giving us the capacity to be in our well-being. They also agree that you can find wholeness within you and live a life of inner well-being with the will to heal trauma and the time it takes to get back to your true self and humanity's optimized state of being from body, mind, and again, your brain involves the brain too, heart and sense of self. Okay, so remember, Bezel van der Kolk said, yeah, about 20 years so far showed some people took to heal, but they still healed. So I'm going to say anybody who does not want to, again, they don't have to. That's why we got the 7 and 14 charming, who are basically going to be called right by the non-bilaterally brained people. It's amazing how they think of things consistently in just twos. It's really boring again, but we leave it alone. So they're going to stay in their state of protection. We have the laws that we go vote and we go keep doing that. And limited consciousness cannot succeed because they're not actively healthy life. So they have distress, which means bad stress. And also it's shown that when you don't get integration and you don't work yourself out of trauma, basically your body is going to suffer from it. Now I know some people get scared. Dr. Daniel Siegel informed me, he said, no, nothing to get scared of, because luckily there's great mental health professionals like Dr. Daniel Siegel and more, Patrick Tian, Terry Real. They can help you to get integrated in your brain, own that sense of self, reparent, and there you go. We got integrity now. And then you can, if you want, add personal development and spiritual growth here. And that's going to be fun for those who want to come back around later on for more. So again, every person can access heaven in the body, mind, brain, heart, self if they pursue accessing the body's state of safety and connection, which is ventral, and out of protection, which is threat and dysregulation. Taking ownership of your sense of self is also part of the process, and becoming a whole solo self in a secure attachment, which for some means reparenting with a good therapist for the time it takes to own, uncharge, and integrate all parts of you, while also learning healthy self-regulation, soothing and anchoring in your body's state of safety with connection, ventral vagal. With an inner child adult, you know, heaven in the body in the spirituality sense of the kingdom of God is within you, or the seat of enlightenment. I have it all right here. And in the sciences terms, it's called restorative embodiment, with you anchored in ventral energy. It's amazing. It's why when somebody's like, I don't want you around me today. No, they don't do it that way, but I can read and I'm like, I'm going to go because I think you're in one of those moods. Okay, so the 5D mystic in person, we live and love mindfully and spiritually. We know how to process our thoughts and emotions with bilateral and vertical and overall integration, and a body that is safe to feel when shit comes up. Okay, that is because sensations, images, affects, meanings, and behaviors are contained. As Peter Levine points out, once that is happening, great. Now we own, observe, witness, narrate the sense of self. And as Dr. Daniel Siegel points out, means that in the state of awareness, maximum uncertainty, you're able to handle your implicit memory. That's the first 3 years of life. Not that explicit is easy. Those are images. The sensations are the stuff that people don't understand, which is why when you say I found it hard to believe, okay, you don't understand what that is, but it's okay. So thanks to continuing personal spiritual growth with an inner growth mindset, mindfulness practices, and mindset. Thank you. Welcome aboard. We are able to own that sense of self and sensations, images, affects, meanings, and behaviors that come up in our day-to-day. So when the unknowns, uncertainties, and unwanted, we apply the inner growth mindset, deal with it from an open heart, and we are able to stay and actually go in a state of flow. That flow state is your bilateral vertical overall integration, and it's called a default mode network that is downregulated in your self-empowered, enlightened mystic or person who's mindfully living and loving and or spiritually. Again, you choose that part. So again, it allows for inner and outer well-being, but it also shares the good news and the opportunity with others who also want to live in their body, mind state of connection with self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, that pursue expansion of intelligence in our humanity in its infinite higher human consciousness potential experience form. So in the darkness, unbeknownst to all, not wanting to be seen or heard, we weep for those who will not find their way or not choose it. This is something that came to me to share with you all. Obviously, you don't have to weep. I weeped already, and I'm told to leave alone the 0-1-year-old. The way back home to yourself, to the heaven that resides within you and that every child of God is meant to have, takes place when you reclaim and or you've maintained the essence of the child that resides within you. She's right here, and I can thank my family and every single one of people, but I can thank above all my body, because as Stephen Porges points out, and Gabor Mate and other smart human beings, it's not the events that happen to you. It will be your body and the body's nervous system. And then, as Lisa points out, lovely Lisa Barrett, because she does the whole, the brain keeps the count and the body keeps the score, trying to point out your thoughts are what come first, which is accurate. And that's because even though you are first emotional, people don't understand this, because by the second year, words begin to come, and those words are the narrative people get stuck in, which they don't look at and notice. I still feel icky, and I'm not supposed to feel icky about my body and about being human. So the brain is running a model of its body. Lisa Feldman Barrett, she has a good book out. Okay, so When you have an inner child adult that lives empowered and is not in hypervigilance, you're going to know what my world feels like and any of those who have secure attachment, whether earned or not, okay? So we have access to more mental, emotion, physical intelligence, thanks to integration, our adolescent essence, the essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression, and the wholeness of our child parts are asleep and tended to by our higher grown-up self, which is awesome. And that's why our clairs, they all expand, our oversoul expands, we don't lose people, we don't have any of that battle nightmare stuff. So we are the 5D collective, Christ consciousness, and humanity's infinite higher human conscious potential in the flesh. We are mystics and mindfully living and loving people who have healthy self-worth, soothing regulation and regulating and empowering empowered behaviors, mannerisms, thought processes, emotional experiences, conversations, you name it. And it's all thanks to, again, integration of the brain and a restorative embodiment chosen life. You choose it. You don't have to be it. And please join us if you do want the lovely essence of a child of you, the child of you, to be brought forth, because really it's amazing. But again, we want to remember also, as I will want to share with you this last tidbit as we close on out, and you can tune back into more full moon channeled guidance messages, food for thought, sharing. Remember, pseudoscience lady, okay, please don't write notes down. And I can fuck up data. I want to make sure I understand this, but I do know what inner and outer well-being are. So, and I have my own subjective life, which is what you will hear when I'm bringing in spiritual stuff. It's Maria's. This is not meant to give. And anybody who's still using these lists, please don't. Okay, that's your left mode. If you need to organize shit like that. Okay, when you're having a conversation, having a good time, we're just talking. That's an empowered person way of intelligence working. It's not, you're confusing shit. No, I'm not. I'm not confusing. I'm expressing. I'm sharing. I'm talking. You can talk too. We can take turns. So, dysregulation and modulation are not something fun. There's a stepping stone before anyone can access this besides their desire. And that's the part that I've seen people don't give a shit to understand. From the mindfulness human beings that are holistic without any knowledge to the ones who did go to courses that I've seen don't care of what is being told to them, to the sciences people who also. So I like to learn things on purpose, and I don't just tune in or out. No, I hear everything. And then I go and discerningly look at shit if I want to. If I don't, I don't. But as a human who owns my body and my mind and myself, again, so using this, I believe in Maria. There are no disowned parts. I have no shit with my emotions. I don't need to heal them. They're always going to be clear because I know exactly what I'm doing. And if I want someone to reassure me, I know who to go to. And I know who not to go to. That's because I like to have whole people with me, because they're not going to judge my emotions traumatic or tell me I'm pretending, and a lot more stuff that facade people do, or basically talk in their brain and not tell you what they're thinking. Please appeasers come out of the woodwork eventually. That's the most annoying thing to a person who doesn't lie, is having human beings be liars and then realizing they can't do differently because they don't care to go to Patrick Tian. So they can become a bilaterally integrated brain and an actual person with integrity who can speak shit out of their mouth without a problem. I will still thank my facade friend because I don't speak shit. If I notice any type of closing, my body's automatically remembering, leaving alone. I'm not going to put any best effort foot forward because you're a person who's hiding from yourself. So the minute you're hiding from yourself, I know that I'm going to have a Cusco. And I don't want to deal with Cusco. It's a waste of my time. But what I was trying to get to is I've been explained how it works. So this regulation cannot work with the sensations, images, affects, meanings, or behaviors yet because it's too much. They have to first begin with the thought process. And when people say mindset is not everything and that the world outside of you is to be blamed, there's your teenager attitude with a little bit of fist. No, a lot. That's it. Okay? So they've made their conscious choice. Oh, my thoughts don't matter. And the minute you got a Zen master who's also doing that, okay, no, your thoughts matter because the words have a sound and also they have an impact because your body is hearing you. So the minute you don't want to access neutrality and duality, you've just told me that you're going to be cool to stay a teenager like every other facade person out there. And so you don't explore the depths of your disowned parts, which is why, again, as we close on out actually, and then I'm going to move on to our other episodes. Richard Schwartz, PhD. We all have an exile who's craving to be given a different message than we got in our family about ourselves. And we are all putting that one on our partner to be that And we're all putting that on our partner to be that redeemer. Okay, so yeah, the partner to be, I guess this is the part of where they must be talking about. Let's see. Ah, yes, compassionate relationships. So if a person is internally healing with someone, then they don't put it on you, because this is where, as Terry Real points out, your partner is not your therapist. You got a therapist, and ask Patrick Tihan too. You don't need to bring your past into a room like that. So anybody who is not tending to their nervous system to allow themselves to work with their child parts, to me, as a person who's choosing to not understand, you are going to have self-compassion, and then know what you are triggered by, and then bring to me something that we're going to work with. And this is why Terry Real says there's conditions for grown-ups. I would say, no, it's not conditions, it's common sense. But that's because I'm a person who's whole, and that accepts that I have a body and a brain. Okay, so wholeness means you understand that whole, in the terms that we are learning today, you have a sense of self. You own it. You own your body, mind. You own your heart. You own all of it. You are healing with somebody to learn healthy self-regulation, and then you're going to be in a healthy adult relationship. And you don't put shit on anybody, because that's your nervous system. So if you don't learn and know how to do ventral, that's why you have a therapist, and then you go and have a true relationship with somebody who doesn't actually hide shit from you. And that's why empowered feminines and masculines are going to get together, the 5D collective here. All the other ones, they're good with their codependent stuff. And we leave it alone. They're going to go and, anyways, we'll be back with more since this lovely full moon. But it's not a simple process. However, it is and is possible to be done. It's the person who chooses. Do I want to believe that humans are monsters, or do I want to believe that humans, when they begin life, are implicit memory, then explicit, and then I understand why some people are easily broken? It's because their nervous system can't handle the depths of emotion in a certain way. Their window tolerance is, there's a lot of explanations. No demons are explained. That's not an explanation. Those are stories. So good evil is not about good evil in these words. Michael Stone, forensic criminologist, he puts them all in prison. Well, if we have to use one, that's it. But the good evil, all of us can have a kind and kind. We can all be considered monsters, not monsters. The part of how you are living life, well, it's either going to be here or you're going to be expanding. Okay, so expanding means you are able to understand the concept that those who are here, they're not expanding. They're biologically root. And therefore, their lack of intelligence will show clearly as their demeanor, mannerisms, and so on and so forth. And so, again, only they can choose to go and head on over and begin a journey that could take 20 years, but that will get them to health. And that's here. And then that will get them to be able to be emotionally available and mentally and physically to what are in-depth, beautiful, amazing relationships. So I'm very honored to be here with all of you and the time. And, the reality is, as a mystic and person of spiritual growth and past and still with me, the day I found out that we're not needed, those of us of blind faith, that is, the ones of us who have not souls that break and we don't play God. We know God always wins. There's no battle, because that's the point. We have no question of who the winner is and who is going to thrive. We don't need to make our species supra anything. That's where ego always comes in, making you feel because of that whole meaning. Okay, so when you don't understand that you have meaning and you're meaningless, all in one and the same. An asteroid might hit me right now. I'm done. Okay, so when you're mindfully living, this is what it means, and not with torture chamber shit, because you know what grounded reality is. I, Maria, in grounded reality, have known since as a kid that I might die without knowing it, and I don't like it. And people are like, why are you scared of it? I'm not scared of it, and I don't want it. Okay, so long story short, though, some people don't want to heal. And it is painful to get out of the hellhole. That's how they describe it. But as you walk out of hell, those ladders, you're going to get out. And then at that point, I know I do personally want self-help, Maria. I want life now. And that's when you make your next choice. Okay, so that's where other people are going to be at. But in the meantime, for us, we are all people who I love to love. And my baby, he loves to dance and he loves to learn. He loves to expand and not cast stones. And that's who we are going to talk about next. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Save it for a rainy day. And when love taps you on the shoulders or on the shoulder on a starless night. You may just want to hold her, him, or they, and you got a pocket full of starlight. Okay, so tune back in later if you want. Thanks for hanging out and chit-chatting. If you have any questions or you'd like me to expand on some aspects, let me know. And if you do know people who want to pursue personal development, spiritual growth, and just like to hear about the great news, we all can have heaven in the body. We all can have enlightenment, unlike what the Zen master thinks, but we might have people that won't want it, and we learn to respect them because that's what discernment means. You learn to respect those who are cowards, unkind, unloving because of monsters that live in their heads because they don't go and heal their trauma because that's what they chose, to disregard the scientists who are saying they can heal. And again, they don't have all the information pieces from the people who are talking bad about yoga and mindfulness and meditation, because the people that come together who care, they're all a group, but then we have a group that doesn't get informed. Okay, so anyways, it's some people are really thorough with what they do, personal development, and others are not. And that's any type of practitioner or professional or human being out there. Again, we'll be back with more. Have a good one.